The sun had barely set, casting long shadows across the quiet parking lot of the National Guard barracks in a small town in Texas. The hum of cicadas filled the thick evening air, mixing with the distant rumble of motorcycles echoing down the highway. In the parking lot, a few trucks and military vehicles were parked, but for the most part, the barracks was calm, its usual military precision disrupted only by the occasional chatter of soldiers finishing their shift. Sergeant Adam Kane stood outside, his boots planted firmly on the asphalt. He had just finished a long day of routine training, and now he was soaking in the silence, letting the cool breeze wash over him. He hadn't been stationed here long, but something about the place felt different. There was a sense of pride that ran through the air like the ghosts of soldiers past lingered just beyond sight. Cain wasn't like most of the others. He had seen the worst of humanity in the heat of combat during multiple overseas deployments. But now, he found solace in the predictability of his new role training civilians who wanted to serve their country in a less glamorous, but equally important, way. Then came the roar of engines. The rumble started distant, but it didn't take long for the sound to grow louder, the vibrations from the bikes reverberating through the ground. Cain squinted toward the entrance of the parking lot, where a group of motorcycles appeared, kicking up dust as they turned in. The riders wore leather jackets, adorned with patches of different colors. Some were black and red. Some were American flags. But there was one that stuck out, a skull with crossed pistons. The kind of patch that screamed trouble. Cain's eyes narrowed. The bikers weren't from around here. He knew every local rider by face or reputation, and these men had the swagger of outsiders, people looking for trouble. As the motorcycles pulled into the lot, Cain's instincts kicked in. He wasn't sure what they wanted, but he knew trouble when he saw it. These weren't the kind of men who respected military protocol, and they certainly didn't look like they'd come here for a friendly conversation. One of the bikers, a tall man with a full beard and tattoos that snaked down his arms, dismounted his Harley and stretched his back. His jacket read Shadow Riders MC. He looked at the barracks, then at his crew, nodding with approval. "This is the place," he said gruffly, his voice carrying over the low hum of the other bikes. Cain watched from a distance, his arms crossed as he assessed the situation. The bikers hadn't bothered to check in at the gate. They didn't seem concerned about authority, about the military presence in the area. It was clear they were looking for something or someone. As the group of bikers gathered near the entrance of the barracks, Cain knew he couldn't let this go. He stepped forward, his boots crunching against the gravel. The sound caught the attention of the bikers, and their heads snapped in his direction. The tall biker slowly stood, his expression darkening. "You've got guts, soldier. I'll give you that. But you've also got a lot of balls to talk to us like that." Cain didn't flinch. "And you've got a lot of nerve walking onto military property and threatening people who have sworn to protect this country. I'm not going to let you make trouble here. Not on my watch." The biker's eyes narrowed. "This isn't over, soldier. We'll be back." Cain nodded once, sharply. "Maybe you will. But next time, I'll be ready." With a final glance at the fallen biker, who was now rubbing his sore wrist, the leader of the group signaled for his crew to leave. They mounted their motorcycles, engines roaring to life, and peeled out of the parking lot, disappearing into the night. Cain watched them go, his posture relaxed but alert. He knew this wasn't the end of it. People like the Shadow Riders didn't just let things go. But he wasn't worried. He had faced worse. As the noise of the bikes faded, Cain turned back toward the barracks. The evening air had settled into a cool stillness, and the once bustling parking lot returned to its quiet, disciplined state. Cain couldn't help but feel a small sense of pride. He had done what he had been trained to do, protect the men and women in his unit, and stand his ground when it mattered. The next day, word spread through the barracks about what had happened. Cain didn't want the attention, but it came with the territory. The bikers had learned a lesson. They might have thought they could intimidate a soldier, but they had messed with the wrong one. Cain had been a soldier long enough to know that you don't back down from bullies. You face them head on. And when they return, and they would return,